Sandy, I think what an excellent point to bring you in. So welcome to today's news.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Tell us a bit about sanctuary cities.
Well, this works very well with what Ben's just been speaking about, because the UK has embraced the cities of sanctuary agenda, and there's many of them that have popped up over the years in all over the UK, as that slide just proved. The US has had the Sanctuary City program for some time, which is a formal policy within a legal framework, but it's not quite the same here in the UK. The UK immigration is solely controlled by the Home Office, so councils don't have the same legal autonomy, if you like, as the United States. Since 2005, we have in the UK, we've had the Cities of Sanctuary programme. It started in Sheffield, and the concept is more nuanced than the US. It's more a community-driven agenda, more communitarian, if you like, if you want to give it a word, using community engagement. So we've had this since 2005, and they popped up all over the UK. And if you look at the UK Cities of Sanctuary website, they even have a charter from 2022 to 2025 for this Cities of Sanctuary. The cities really of Coventry, Sheffield, and the town of Hastings have engaged in quite big PR campaigns welcoming the refugees. I think we've got some slides of those. And the website has clear, detailed plans on how this can be achieved with social change and building a movement. As you can see with that slide, you've got social contact and how they can actually move this infrastructure forward. So they've got very, very detailed plans of how they're going to roll out this program of replacement migration and how we are going to accept it as cities and towns. Last week, Weston-super-Mare Town Council announced plans to become a city of sanctuary, and the residents are just not too happy about this at all. Because on the surface, the City of Sanctuary movement sounds like a noble idea, of course, a gesture of compassion towards these people fleeing war or persecution. But behind the warm words and smiling PR campaigns, unfortunately, the local residents haven't been consulted. And it'll have a damaging impact on communities and our economy, and even the integrity of our institutions. City of Sanctuary status is often adopted by local council without any real sort of democratic process. And that's the problem. There's no referendum, no public debate, just a quiet sort of shift, and it is shifty. It's in policy that can dramatically reshape a town's priorities. Housing lists grow, for instance. The NHS waiting times worsen, and schools struggle to cope with sudden increase in non-English speaking pupils. All of this puts extra pressure on the people who've paid into the system. Now, talking about the schools, this is the problem: is that they've now pushing this agenda through our children under the banner of Cities of Sanctuary. We now have schools of sanctuary, where children are taught one-sided narratives that present all immigration as good and any dissent as morally suspect, if you like. Children are taught that their city must be a safe space, and local charities are increasingly adopting activist roles where questioning mass immigration becomes taboo, and you're deemed racist or right-wing if you question these narratives. So there's an imbalance here. There's, people's views aren't being taken into consideration with all of this. So we have to ask, is this education or is it indoctrination? And I clearly think it's indoctrination. Refugee programs cost money, and a lot of it. Many arrivals are not immediately employable due to language barriers, trauma, or legal restrictions. That means more welfare spending, more demands on public services, and fewer resources for working class families already struggling with the cost of living. And while some may integrate successfully over time, many don't, becoming long-term dependents on a system that was never designed to support this level of influx. And let's face it, as replacement migration, migrants also age as well, and that hasn't been talked about. So, we have to be honest. This rapid demographic change doesn't always lead to vibrant multicultural harmony. In many areas, it leads to social fragmentation. When large numbers of people with different cultural values settle in a short time without general integration, tensions rise. Communities that once shared a common identity now find themselves divided and unsure of who or what they are anymore. The City of Sanctuary movement now fits into a broader trend. I mean, it's a top-down moral agenda being pushed onto communities without any debate and enforced through institutions like schools, councils, and charities. It's shored up by these charities, charitable trusts, the Esme Fairbairn Foundation. Is it about kindness or is it about control? And to put things into perspective, let's look at the Institute of Migration documents. If you didn't know there was one, look it up. They're also covered by Black Lives Matter, support them. And the migration plan of 2030 is actually all part of the Institute of Migration. And that is all linked to the 17 Sustainable Goals. So nobody's saying we shouldn't help genuine refugees, but compassion doesn't mean surrendering your town to this ideology. A generous society must also be a stable one where resources are protected and culture is preserved. And decisions are made with the consent of the people who actually live there. And that's what we need to rethink. It's all been forced upon us. And we need to really look at this and realise that it is part of the 2030 agenda, which actually is all linked to the 17 goals. And do we really need this? Yeah.
Sandy, thank you very much for taking us through that, because it is a very hot topic. It can be difficult to talk about in some ways because of the immense vicious pushback from legacy media, the BBC in particular, if you dare talk about these things. But I know that many years ago, I was able to talk to some of the Asian community, migrant community in the Midlands. And what was fascinating was that they also recognised that the levels of migration couldn't continue without destroying the very nature of the country that they'd wanted to come and benefit from. So the idea that it's only white people in UK who've got any concerns about this is utter nonsense. There's huge concern amongst many of the established migrant communities in UK. I'll just add that into the news. We can talk about this a little bit more in UK Column Extra. Now, very important thing, we have just a few tickets left for our UK Column on Location event, Saturday the 5th of April in Cheltenham. Remind people of speakers: Catherine Gunn, Alex Thompson, Patrick Henningson, Raja Mir, and myself. Just 30 or so tickets left. So if you want to come, we'd love to have you there with us. Then please get onto the UK Column website and buy a ticket. It's going to be a wonderful day, and we've plenty of time to mix with the audience and talk to people. But also, we need to announce today that the online tickets are available on the website. Those are £20, £18 if you're actually a member of the UK Column. So if you unfortunately can't attend in person, which we'd really love you to do, but if you can't, you've now got the opportunity of watching that event as an online event. Now, the other thing is that UK Column puts out a lot of information on the website. And Diane, I think you've got a little bit of comment about this, because huge amount of information, I think, sometimes gets missed by our audience because it's an article.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. As the commissioning editor for our written content, I just wanted to take some time, maybe each time I'm on the news, to regularly mention some of the written articles that have been published on the website, because I think they do get overlooked. Just to review what's been published in the past few weeks, for example, we've had a two-part series about replacement migration, as we've just discussed here, by Simon Elmer, an article about farmers' protests maybe not being a good solution from Charles Mallett, an article about how the Isle of Guernsey beat the big bankers by Mark Anderson, constitutional crisis was going on and still is going on in Germany by Jobst, who was the German man who joined us last Monday for the news. An article about Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, who's a really major globalist, and a series of articles about sexualization and indoctrination of children in schools. One is about schools in Wales by Martin Edwards that's available. And there's another one about Northern Ireland by Hugh McCarthy, which brings us to tomorrow's interview, which is going out tomorrow, which was with me, again, as usual, live stream at 1 p.m. at ukcolumn.org. Hugh is a retired head teacher in Northern Ireland, and he discussed with me the situation in the education system in Northern Ireland and his ongoing efforts in trying to stop this sexualization and indoctrination that's being taught in schools in Northern Ireland, across the UK, and worldwide. And I say worldwide because one of the things that he reviewed with me was the written policies of the World Health Organization, which is dictating what the world's children should learn about sex and sexuality at very young ages. So it's quite shocking, but I think if you could please join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock or thereafter and learn what is actually in store for our children. It's quite concerning.
Let's move on, but